When Harry's wife met HG, Part 6. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and I continue allowing you to understand more of my world and a bit of what happened when Harry's wife met me. It was the day after my first encounter with the American actress. I was awake, and, with my eyes adjusted to the Stygian gloom of the room, I turned and glanced at my wristwatch. It was 6 a.m., a later than usual awakening for me, but it had been a later than usual night, thanks to the individual who still slept besides me. I turned and watched the slow rise and fall of the duvet as she breathed soundlessly. Even having had a reasonable amount to drink, she did not snore, a good sign. The balance of the previous evening had been taken up with an excellent dinner at Superbia, with accompanying drinks. Susanna had called Sophie twice, although Sophie, in accordance with my instruction, had not taken the calls. These undoubtedly were hoovers by proxy, instigated by the American actress, desperate to get what she wanted. This was confirmed when Sophie played the voicemails. "Sophie, we are at Prelia, but we can't seem to find you, darling. Where are you at?" asked Susanna. There was a palpable trace of irritation in her voice, but I knew it was nothing compared to the annoyance the American actress would have experienced. Dragged across town to the restaurant, clearly with the expectation of something, only to be denied when on arrival we could not be found. It was clear Susanna would have sought to placate her. Susanna wasn't stupid, and her scanning of the restaurant and not finding us will have told her that we were not there. But instead, she'll have relayed it as not being able to spot us to the American actress. I could picture the American actress stood, waiting, jaw clenched, and I felt a slight surge from the image. The second voicemail was testier. "Sophie, where the hell are you? I know that piss-taker Tudor has put you up to this. Call me back. Now." "I'd better call her," said Sophie, evidently anxious at her friend's tone. "Oh, let her stew," I grinned. "She will call me next, and I'll deal with it. Come, you were telling me about your family," I encouraged. "Your parents divorced when you were 10, yes?" I reminded her to cause her to pick up the reins of her history once more, as I mined her for information that I could then use against her. Sophie resumed her family history as we consumed our starters. My twice-baked trapana cheddar and black truffle soufflé was exquisite. The soufflé was light as it entered my mouth, and the texture made me wonder what Sophie's skin would taste like as I listened to her telling me about how she lived with her mother, as her father was a nomadic individual by all accounts, who then moved to South Africa. With my starter devoured, I was hungrier than I had realized. I felt the buzz of one of my phones, and pulling it free saw that it was, as expected, Susanna calling. "Here she is," I declared to Sophie. "Would you excuse me, Sophie, whilst I speak to her?" "Oh, please, by all means," encouraged Sophie, doubtless relieved to be no longer the focus of Susanna's calls. "Susanna, darling," I announced playfully into the phone, "have you finally ditched your boring friend? If so, we might be able to make room for you here, but only you," I tempted her. "Don't you Susanna darling me, you bastard. She's gone to the bathroom. She's rather upset as she thinks you don't like her." Well, that's the first sensible observation she's made all night, I replied. Listen, I'm not that bothered you've cleared off to try and screw Sophie. I guess Meghan would not be to your taste. She's too self-absorbed, so there's no room for HG to shine. I laughed at this provocation. Susanna, I wasn't going to waste my shine on somebody so dull she absorbs sunlight. I swear I saw 3 people's souls flee their bodies when she walked past them. Sophie was laughing at this, and I winked at her in response. Too easy. HG, I need a favour, asked Susanna. Those photos haven't reappeared, have they? I teased. Shut up. No, of course not. Listen, Meghan wants an English boyfriend. Well, I've just turned gay, I responded. Sophie laughed again, almost losing a mouthful of her food. This call was just as much as entertaining her as it was needling Susanna, and, by extension, the American actress. Will you please listen? Of course. She's expressed interest in you. Yes, I can see your head swelling from here. But I explained you're not available. Sensible. Thank you, I answered. However, I had been telling her about some of your connections, through your family, also your sporting friends, explained Susanna. What's she after? A footballer with a K? Won't they be too old for even her? I asked. No, one or the other. You know how some Yanks are, fixated with all things royal. She is a bit of a Diana obsessive, to put it mildly. Yes, so I gather. Sophie explained as such when we were in the cab on the way here. To where? Asked Susanna. Good try, Susanna, to Proelia, I replied. She'd have to do far better than that to catch me out. I'm in Proelia and you're not here, confirmed Susanna. I know, I answered. I'm waving at you. I stifled a laugh. Fuck off. Look, she wanted to know if you would effect some introductions for her. I've lined up a few already, but you move in those circles that she really wants to get into. Anyone I know? I asked. Yes, but that's not important right now. Look, I consider it as a huge favour if you would organise, say, 3 or 4 introductions for her. Why on earth would I do that for her? I've only just met her, and she's irritatingly dull with a fake voice and those weird hand-chopping actions. What's all that about? I wondered out loud. Buggered if I know, HG, but, Susanna lowered her voice, you wouldn't be doing it for her. You'd be doing it for me. Oh, well, that's a different story, isn't it? I pointed at the phone and mimicked a chatting motion, rolling my eyes, causing Sophie to nod and laugh. Please, pleaded Susanna. I'm not sure I could tolerate another hour of her telling me what the ideal English boyfriend amounts to and get it so hopelessly wrong. I don't see any advantage for me, Susanna. In fact, I am more likely to see a reduction in my standing, as after what will be clearly a humdrum and bromidic encounter, I'll be met with, HG, what on earth possessed you to introduce that woman to me? Surely there's someone posh and moneyed you could hook her up with, urged Susanna. There were, in fact, several idiots I could have suggested, and it would have been amusing to have more on meet mundane, but that would still necessitate use of my valuable time. Susanna was still not offering anything to induce interest on my part, which told me that it was her who stood to gain from this arrangement, probably material that she could write about, and, maybe, even an invitation to a wedding. No, it's not worth my time, I said firmly, my hitherto jovial tone evaporating, leaving the flat effect which I rarely showed. I saw Sophie's expression change at the shift in tone. Damn it, here she comes, replied Susanna, and the call ended. All sorted, I smiled at Sophie, who returned my gesture. And that, valuable viewers, was that. My first encounter with, and in relation to the American actress that became Harry's wife. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.